Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran. Today it is time to take a look at the Rogue on Reddit Megathread with all of the Rogue issues and changes. For a while ahead, what they've been doing is getting a bunch of these communities for specific classes, and Rogue has one of them called Ravenhold. Very great guys. You guys should definitely check them out on their website. I'll have a link down below. There's also a Discord link if you guys want to get some great assistance from some of the better Rogue players out there. Any questions they usually can answer. So what all these communities started doing is putting together all the different issues with an open letter to developers with everything that is good about the spec and everything that isn't, from a lot of rogues that are either very competitive in PvE environments, whether it's raids or Mythic Plus dungeons. Overall, in this video, I just want to take a look at what they've got going on, give you guys my comments, let you guys know what's going on, and hopefully we'll see what kind of ideas they got. Maybe they have some ideas to really help fix all the rogue specs. Maybe they will even be able to point out things that I never really thought about when it comes to rogue issues. I'm interested in what they got to say for Outlaw. I'm actually very interested, but I am going to cover all three specs just to see what's going on. So without further ado, let's actually just jump into the video. I have the Reddit link open right here, and they actually broke it down in just very nice, succinct ways. I want to take a look at it step by step just to see exactly where things are. First of all, we could talk about Assassination. Assassination is a spec that centers around bleeds and poisons, damage over time with a focus on single target. Let me move myself over here because I feel like it'll be just better. Damage over time with a single target. It fills a spot of rather easy to play yet strong rogue specialization. Great to get you started and also allowing you to focus more on mechanics. It is a strong progression spec with the most resistant rogue spec to down times. Besides, it allows to continue damaging the boss while switching on secondary targets. Since Battle for Azeroth bleeds and poisons are hasted, which is great and a long way to change, this has made haste much more useful. Unfortunately, there is still concern of the haste value vanishing quickly against multiple targets. Our slow energy region is not helping it. We also lost the artifact trait that restored big amounts of energy on Vendetta and nothing to compensate for it. I believe Blizzard actually added that energy region, but not as huge as it was on the trait, but somewhat of like a trait, I guess, replacement. Not quite as good, but definitely I get the same feeling whenever I play Assassination for PvE in particular. Bit different in PvP. In dungeons and raids, definitely there is that downtime. Talents. Blindside is the talent that was probably meant to serve as an execute choice and was actually worse during the execute phase, while performing lower than the other two. There are also secondary issues as the decreased value of double dose and other mutilate specific mechanics. Many rogues were very excited to see this talent in the beta and really wanted to be an option, but the changes there, I agree. Blindside, why can't that be good out of all the things? Just make Blindside good. I was so happy about it, and it's true. That does point out there's too many mutilate based abilities, and it doesn't offer. I guess you would have to go anti-mutilate if you want to make this blindside work, but blindside just doesn't do much. It used to be a huge execute builder, like not a lot of comp point building, but big execute damage. That's true. Master Assassin can be a frustrating option that is not 100% chance, seems weird, and short duration makes it difficult to have the results average. Yeah, why is that thing not 100%? Back, the shoulders were 100%. This is basically supposed to be the shoulders in talent, but they made it only 50. Yeah, they take away a bit of consistency. They're right. Venom Rush is too far behind performance-wise, while also being a worse as a concept. The passive talent only working as a single target filling mutilate versus the more versatile and bursty ones. It also has negative combo with blindside. True. Level 100 tier. Poison Bomb is still random proc. While not doing some major damage right now, it's still a default pick for raiding single target due to the other talents being strictly AoE oriented. Hidden Blades is something that feels more suitable for Subtlety, a spec that can actually gain some multi-target damage from it. Assassination's main source of damage for AoE are bleeds and poisons, so this talent falls behind, while also being less fun to play than Crimson Tempest in the same tier. Crimson Tempest is a bit underwhelming too. While being our only AoE finisher, it does most of its damage periodically and scales with a number of targets. Being worth taken only for intense multi-target scenarios, for it to work as good as last year's talent, we feel Crimson Tempest could get a damage tuning pass to be worth using more common in AoE situations, e.g. at 3+ targets rather than 5 to 6 sustained targets. True, and there's definitely, I feel like the whole bottom row does need to be changed up a little bit. Hidden Blades can get out of Assassination. I mean, I understand the whole row is an AoE tree, but it feels weird. The Poison Bomb is like the only single target option. I don't know, man. That's true. Crimson Tempest, I don't know. That's like, I feel like level 100 tree is the only tree for Assassination that's actually kind of a decent tree, with Blindside, Master Assassin, Venom Rush like taking up actually a dead slots. Level 100, I don't see Hidden Blades using that often, unless you're running some weird build. I do like Crimson Tempest, but I do see what they mean by that. I like Crimson Tempest. I kind of like that talent. I loved it back in Miss Pandaria too, when all 3 specs of rogues had it. I don't know. I feel like out of all the three specs so far, I didn't see take a look at all the others, but Assassination so far, I feel like didn't come in with the worst type of changes. I do agree with Blindside though, and Master Assassin and Venom Rush. There's definitely a few dead talents that just nobody picks, but there's a reason why. Blizzard needs to rotate those out ASAP. Make the spec. I feel like you have to have talents that play with damage over time. I feel like. Make more talents. You can make them passive, but that add you actual interesting playstyles with damage over time abilities. Maybe like, what if a level 100 tree you had Poison Bomb, no Hidden Blades, but instead, depending on how many ruptures you have on enemies, you get some kind of a haste buff. So if you have like 3 targets, you can maintain rupture at all times. That extra haste could be a single target increase or a multi-target increase. It actually gives you kind of like options. I don't know, that's just an idea I had on the top of my head. You guys can check it out. I'll have links for this stuff down below. I do agree though with the energy regen during Vendetta, and this post right here summarizes it really well. Vendetta is a huge DPS cooldown, but it really sucks using it in combat because of how Assassination works now. The first time you use Vendetta against the boss, it's like alright, but it's only alright. Half the time I find myself quite energy starved. During Vendetta, I'd say that I'll lose 3 to 5 seconds each use just waiting for energy. I feel like they need to add some kind of a passive energy regen while Vendetta is up, so you can always have a good flow of energy. They can even nerf how much damage it does, but just so the ability feels good to play and press through, you know? Like during Vendetta, you're just pumping energy all day, but they can even maybe reduce just how much damage upkeep or damage increase there is on a target, because you'll have more consistent energy regen, so overall more damage. There's definitely ways to adjust the ability so it still deals the same amount of damage and offers you a big bursty cooldown, but it feels better to play through it. Alright, let's jump onto Outlaw, my favorite spec. Let's see what is wrong with it, or at least what the guys at Ravenhill gotten. Outlaw rogues are brawlers and duelers who stand their ground in combat and fight with sheer force and mastery. The spec was started quite out strong in Battle for Azeroth, but just like Legion, was nerfed and abandoned by many players for the release of the first raid. No! Its main strength is AoE damage, with Blade Flurry, which is a especially welcome sight in dungeons. Nevertheless, Outlaw tends to feel a lot less useful when you have no Blade Flurry charges left, as it makes it harder to keep up, while the other two specs have more consistent AoE for every pull. I agree with that, but I also find the Blade Flurry playstyle, like, it's just a small hill for me to climb over. It feels like it's more about me managing my Blade Flurry stacks a little bit better. I never found that much of an issue, but I do see what they mean in terms of consistency with the other specs. I guess a single target, the spec is okay on paper, but it has disadvantages in reality. Outlaw rogues get hit hardest by downtimes and are rather fast-paced, making them lose most of the damage while not being able to attack the boss. True, whenever we can't attack the boss, we lose a lot of damage. Like, we just plummet down DPS charts, while other specs at least have damage over time or burst playstyles. Other specs are usually safer choices in single target damage and have some strengths in AoE, are not good enough to offset the issue. Outlaw could definitely use a single target damage buff. I'd be okay with that. If they buff Outlaw for single target damage, I'll be okay with that. I like the AoE we have, and I do see what they mean. It doesn't really bother me that much, but, you know, I'm fine playing with certain disadvantages. When a spec has advantages in one area, but disadvantages in others, I like to just play up to my advantages and pair with classes that can kind of cover for my disadvantages. You know, bring a Warlock or a Boomkin for single target. Roll the Bones continues to add a lot of variance to the spec, which is, alongside rerolling fish in gameplay, deterring some potential players. The individual buffs values are spread out quite a lot, with Precision, Grand Melee, Broadside, depending on Azeroth powers, being very dominant, and Buried Treasure and True Bearing becoming extremely weak currently. Yeah, I agree. If they could make all the buffs like equal. I have been playing this spec for a while though, so I don't know, man. I'm kind of used to the rotational playstyle with Roll the Bones, but that's only because I've been used to it. I never said like, no, this shouldn't change the RNG of the playstyle, right? I said like, if they do, that's cool, but like, is it a net loss? No, I feel like Roll the Bones plays a little bit better because at least there's now 2 buffs, Grand Melee and the crit one. Buried, no, not Buried Treasure, Ruthless Precision. I know it's a shark buff actually. I guess from, if you're not really an Outlaw main, yeah, it probably feels like, oh, that's not still a lot of options, and it isn't. I will agree. I don't know, man. I just don't know what they could do with it. Continuing on, the more consistent alternative Slice and Dice is ridiculously undertuned and currently only considered for an unintended build with Dagger in your main hand, which is based on a design issue. Mastery not normalized by weapon speed. Yeah, Slice and Dice needs to be adjusted. They just should buff Slice and Dice. Just buff it. Just make it better. Make it consistent, but make Roll the Bones do like some kind of a damage buff to you every time you roll the bones or something. I don't know. There needs to be something. Or redo it. Or redo it. Or take it away. I don't want it to take it away because I like Roll the Bones, but I don't know what else they could do. Adrenaline Rush has multiple issues that prevent Outlaw from having proper, reliable single target burst. The cooldown is variable thanks to Restless Blaze and True Bearing, but because of this, there's no way to reliably line it up with fight mechanics. Unlike a static 1, 2, 3 minute cooldowns, the potency of cooldown is overall low. To match the low average cooldown and high duration, it becomes more of a rotational skill with a very high optimal. Yeah, so basically we pump Adrenaline Rush basically whenever we can, or whenever we can get a bunch of enemies together. Adrenaline Rush isn't really a cooldown. I don't even think of it as a cooldown. It feels like you should use it on cooldown rather than line it up for the big burst, because it doesn't really affect single target that much. Armory currently suffers from lack of talent diversity. That is true, and several tiers feel locked. Quick Draw is dominating in the first tier for being too strong and very convenient to play with. Second tier, which is damage tier for other specs, is a simple utility tier featuring skills that could also be baseline. In level 100 tier, Dance and Steel is too much of a niche talent to be taken often, and killing speed is very similar to Blade Rush but at a longer cooldown, making it undesirable for M+ scenarios, which is why I told people Blade Dance is so much, or Blade Rush is better than killing speed in M+, but everybody tells me the other way around. Alacrity continues to be the go-to option to level 90 row while being quite boring. It would also be nice to see other options more competitive than loaded dice buffed and loaded dice buffed, but making it give long duration for more rolls maybe. Ooh, that could be good. That could actually be good. Oh my goodness, yeah. So Outlaw Rogue still does suffer from lack of talent diversity. As someone who played Outlaw all of Legion, I basically have the same one talent build that I ran for every single dungeon and raid. And you get tired of that at one point, but eventually you accept it. Eventually you go through the cycle of like depression, you know, and then you accept it. I feel like in BFA it's kind of convenient because you can't really change stuff in Mythic Plus dungeons. You have to choose either AoE build or single target. Outlaw doesn't have to make that option, so I guess it's like an advantage in that sense, but it's almost like I feel like I'm bargaining with myself when I say that out loud. You know what I mean? Yes, it does have a lack of talent diversity. If Blizzard can fix and give us more diversity, I'd be okay with it. If they can't, I kind of get used to it. But yeah, the talent diversity is definitely an issue. Even if I am used to it, I can still say yes. We don't really change our talents that much. Most of it is a very just set in stone kind of deal. There's not a lot of competition between talents. And I guess Blizzard can definitely work on that. Make a lot better talents. Not just buff the ones we have, but just give us brand new talents, you know? I think Outlaw is often overlooked as it has great cleave and perform Blade Flurry, a range stun, gouge, range slow, incredible get out of jail spells and abilities, 100% parry ability. I find the utility and AoE damage great for M+. Yes, it is great. Day in and day out, the worst part about Outlaw is re-rolling the bones. To me, re-rolling to get better buffs isn't exciting. When I get Ruthless Precision, Grand Melee, or +2 buffs, I don't feel excited. I feel relieved. Now I get to play more rotation based on the buffs and procs I have. Enjoy playing Outlaw instead of finishing for new buffs. That is true. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when they made Roll the Bones, they put themselves in a controversial spot, and I don't think Blizzard will ever be able to climb out of that. I've been playing this spec for so long, I don't know a great option to, like, how do you fix Roll the Bones? What do you do with it? Do you just remove it out of the game? Do you keep it in the game? What do you do with Roll the Bones? I don't know. I have no idea. I wish I knew. Damn. Alright, on to Subtlety. Subtlety has always been single target focus spec with a focus on repeatable burst. Last few iterations have enhanced the single target aspects by aiming to funnel our AoE capability into single target damage that scales with residual enemies. The overall pacing feels quite real for this spec. There are two main variations played, one with Secret Technique, which plays similar to how Death from Bow was played back in Legion, but less impactful and more forgiving. Bursty, intensive every 20 seconds. Then there's a second Master of Shadows, which feels quite streamlined and perhaps lacking some complexity, but that is fine for a passive talent setup. While our AoE single target niche feels great, gives a lot more control to the rogue. It also is a bit quirky since sometimes requires the group to hold back AoE so the rogue can deal increased damage, which does not seem very natural. And then there's Zol on Mythic, which is the only encounter which suddenly really plays into Subtlety's cards here. Possibly a bit too much, leading to common impression that Subtlety is OP. Yeah, my guild just got to Zol on Mythic and we were just all Subtlety rogues. We were literally Shuriken Storm, Eviscerate, Shuriken Storm, Eviscerate, and all of us have like like 30-40k DPS the whole fight. We're literally avoiding, nobody can hit the mobs around us, so we can do more single target damage to Zul. Yeah, I always talked about the spec and I like that niche, but definitely what sucks on it is the spread of damage. There's one concern during AoE and cleave which manifests for Secret Technique build. When in AoE cleave rotation, your common point generation and thus the number of finishers and cooldown reduction on Secret Technique and Shadow Dance are much higher. This disjoins those two abilities from Symbols of Death, which can also happen during high haste periods against single target. Perhaps an Azure trait or change to some of our talents that would reduce the cooldown of Symbols of Death based on finishers would be interesting in order to combat this. Ooh, I like that, to have a bit more synergy with your other abilities that have a cooldown reduction. Add Symbols of Death into it, maybe through a talent. I think there's definitely a talent role where you can like give up some damage or some kind of a crazy ability where you can get your Symbols of Death a little bit faster. I think there's potential. I like that. While Shadowblade's rework is nice of helping value AoE, there's still room for improvement. Shuriken Storm is not really a strong ability, as Shadow Dance still is quite underwhelming in dungeons. Besides, considering its length, it might be worth trying to put in a 2-minute cooldown instead of 3. I can agree with that. I think Blizzard is not going to do that because I feel like it just makes too much sense. But Shadowblaze does. It's a great single target utility. So I feel like 3-minute cooldown for it does kind of make sense. And then they are adding an Azure trait which reduces its cooldown, but it doesn't function with AoE. It only functions with your backstab. If they added that ability to function also with AoE and Shadow Strike, I feel like it would make too much sense. The first talent tier is currently the only interesting for single target situations and quite dead in AoE. This makes this row feel very limited, and it could possibly use some treatment to make it more interesting. Besides, Gloomblade is also weak at the moment. Yeah, I agree with that. I like the first row because I feel like for AoE, like it was Zul, you can get those Shadow Strikes in there so you can get Fine Weakness onto the boss. But besides that, it feels clunky and doesn't feel that great. I know the one to make that whole row just a single target row, but it doesn't have a lot of synergy left and right. And there's only 2 good options too, which is a question of like, why is there only 2 good options? Why is Gloomblade so bad? Like, did anybody even test it? Did anyone even press the ability? For specialization with such high focus on single target damage, it feels odd that the tuning during pure single target is in the lower half of the lineup. A suggestion would be to strengthen our single target damage slightly during pure single target scenarios and weaken it slightly during AoE scenarios. A simple way to do it here is to increase the spec aura while reducing shuriken combo damage slightly. This later, in which specs it would be happening on PTR. Okay, so yeah, so basically take out a little bit of single target when you have a lot of ads, so you can't like overgrow, but also increase your single target damage when you don't have the extra ads. I feel like you would do that by increasing the damage of your Shadow Strike, which has been nerfed, by the way. Thank you, Blizzard. 10 out of 10. Other than that, a short duration of Nightblade is still something that could be addressed. Subtlety has felt great at tier 19, said bonus back in Nighthold, and it would be great to get such an extended duration to be baseline. I agree. Nightblade does kind of fall off a lot, and that means less eviscerates that you can get through. That means you're having to refresh yourself a lot more often. I don't think it would change the spec to increase the damage or the duration, because it's only there for the debuff. It's not there for the actual damage over time. Also, there's currently a bug with Shadow Dance, which might remain from the Shadow Dance bar was an original cooldown during the beta. If you use Shadow Dance during a global, your stealth bar will not activate until the global cooldown is over. That's still in the game. Really, Blizzard? So the way I bypassed that completely, and I was doing that back in Legion when Shadow Dance was still like on the global, or yes and no, like you can cast Shadow Dance and ability right afterwards, like milliseconds after, and you can kind of squeeze them both in the same global. But like when you cast an ability and you have like global, you can't cast Shadow Dance until it finishes, you know? So once it like, no you can. Can't. Now you can. So what I did is I made my bar stealth bar and out of stealth bar exactly the same abilities. I didn't change them at all. I have my cheap shot same place, Shadow Strike same place, backstep same place, and I haven't been seeing this as an issue. But I think a lot of people would save up a lot of bar space, especially if you do PvE, for example, where you don't need access to every single ability, unlike PvP, where you can just kind of double up, like a backstep and Shadow Strike in the same place. You're not going to be using backstep when you have Shadow Strike available, but with this, it messes with it. Come on, Blizzard, we're paying 15 bucks a month. This game is not in the beta. You're not an indie company. Oh wow. Alright, so to wrap it up a bit on what my thoughts are, yes, I agree with Assassination. Making your talents a little bit better, taking a lot of dead talents, maybe someone to play around with bleeds and such, I think would be great. Buffing your blind side would be better, and making some adjustment to Vendetta for the energy region will also be awesome. On Outlaw, talent diversity is necessary, and Roll the Bones still is an issue. I don't really have much hope for what they can do with it. I feel like you either get used to Roll the Bones and the playstyle, and you either are fine with it or you're not. Unless they go back and give it Slice and Dice as the baseline, and Roll the Bones is something you could do on the side, I don't know. Finally, with Subtlety, I do think the spec is in a decent spot, but yes, definitely I feel like increase to single target when you're not AoEing, and your AoE single target conversion is a little bit off. Also, I do think maybe some cleave playstyle, it should be a little bit stronger, and the Shadow Blade's nerf down or buff to a 2-minute cooldown rather than 3 would be interesting. But overall, Subtlety I feel like is the one spec that is pretty consistent. Assassination and Subtlety are pretty consistent. Outlaw is kind of like in this weird spot where you don't really even know what they can change to make it better. So except for like a few talent rolls, but Roll the Bones thing is just going to be a huge hurdle regardless. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all the different rogue changes? Do you guys have any specific stuff you like or don't like about Assassination, Subtlety, and Outlaw? And what would you guys do to change any of these specs? Let me know that in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed, and hopefully you guys were informed on all the things happening, especially if you just don't really peruse Reddit that much. I only did it just because, hey, I love Rogue. I want to see what this is about. I think you guys would enjoy the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.